Late evening yesterday, well after our show ended, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. They came in from the east, the Russian border. They came in, the Russian-Ukrainian border. They came in from the north, the Belarus-Ukrainian border. They came in from the sea in the south, from the Black Sea into Odessa. They were not going after the autonomous regions right on the border where they were disputing whether that was Russian territory or Ukrainian territory. They did an all-out assault on Ukraine using surface-to-air missiles from within Russia out of the reach of any Ukrainian artillery, shooting at Kharkov, which is their second largest city on the Russian-Ukrainian border, Kiev, Odessa, their very important seaport, their third biggest city, Kiev being the first, and even in the north near the Polish border, Lvov was also getting hit as well. It appears that what they're trying to do is take a playbook right out of Desert Storm, where, you know, Colin Powell, shock and awe. We just, you know, decapitate them before you get a chance to even defend yourself. Quite frankly, it's 170,000 Russian troops who are better armed with more sophisticated weapons against something less than 170,000 Ukrainian troops, maybe 60, 70,000 Ukrainian troops. So the Russian troops are double the Ukrainian army. They have better
with
arms.
More arms.
They have better sophisticated arms. The only thing that Ukraine, if you think that they can put up a fight, is because they're defending their homeland. They're defending their mothers, their wives, their children. Russia is an invading force. This is extraordinarily unsettling. It's the first time since World War II, in 80 years, that a country has gone on the offensive for no reason other than being an imperialist country, that they want to just own more land. It's even unsettling because we have a dictatorship, in essence, in Russia. Putin's been in power for over 20 plus years, overtaking and invading a democracy. Ukraine is a democracy, corrupt democracy, yet a democracy. They voted the last two presidential elections for their president to try to join NATO, try to join the European Union. They don't want anything to do with Russia. The people overwhelmingly, I think in the last election, Zelensky got over 70% of the vote. His platform was, we want to join the European Union. This is what got Putin all up in arms. Putin went on Russian television and waxed for 1 hour about about all of the historical connections between Russia and Ukraine, and then also waxed about all of the offenses that the United States has done against Russia over the last 100 years since World War II, especially since the fall of the Berlin Wall. Many of these were just historical inaccuracies. He is justifying invading Ukraine by saying that the Ukrainian government is full of Nazis who are committing genocide against the Russian population in Ukraine. None of that is true. In fact, the president of Ukraine is Jewish. It probably, unless something crazy happens, Russia's going to overtake Ukraine within a few days.
Wow.
A week, 10 days. I assume that they're going to do one of two things. Either they're going to be an occupying force, and if they're going to be an occupying force, you know, the old saying goes, you broke it, you own it. And they broke a country. They're going to have to own this country. And if history is a guide to anything, occupying forces never do well.
Right.
Okay, there's always resistance, there's always underground. They never do well.
Mm-hmm.
More likely, my guess is, and I have no idea,
Mm-hmm.
more likely my guess is that they will install a puppet government, a government that is subservient to Vladimir Putin. They will say this is now the new government of the Ukraine. They will go to try to arrest or kill all of any leader within Ukraine, existing leader within Ukraine, or so that there is no organized resistance to this new government. I assume that most of the leaders are trying to leave or will shortly leave. There's about over 100,000 cars on the road right now. Huge, huge traffic jams going west from Kiev to Lvov to the border. Kiev is in northern Ukraine. Lvov is about 40 miles from the Polish-Slovakian border. Once you get to Poland, Slovakia, Romania, that's all borders the Ukraine. Those are all NATO countries. The United States has sworn to protect every NATO country. So that is the demarcation line. If Russia goes beyond Ukraine to any of those countries, Romania, Slovakia, Poland, they're all on the front lines now. President Biden came on television today and he somewhat forcefully, I was a little disappointed, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I wish he would have been a little more forceful.
Mm-hmm.
I think the world needs a forceful president right now.
Right.
So he wasn't as forceful as I would have liked him to have been. But he did say that the United States will honor its commitments to protect every NATO country. My guess will be that, as crazy as Putin is, he's not going to want to get into a fight with NATO, a military fight with NATO. But don't be fooled when people say, especially in the United States or in Western Europe, why do we need to protect Ukraine? And the answer is, one, we have a moral obligation as a democracy to protect democracies around the world. Number two, this is not a war between Russia and Ukraine. This is a war between Russia and the United States of America. In his speeches, Vladimir Putin has been saying that the United States has installed this puppet government to try to overtake Russia eventually, which is none of the truth.
Right.
What it is Ukraine. The Ukrainian people have decided that they want to be more attached to the West than Russia, because the West offers them a better life than being attached to Russia. Because what does Russia offer? Russia's one big gas station.
Yeah.
All they do is pump gas, literally out of the ground. They don't make anything else. They don't make telephones. They don't make cars. What do they make? They make gas out of the ground. So they don't want to be associated with somebody country that just pumps gas out of the ground. They want to be associated with countries, the West, Western Europe, United States. They want to be associated with countries that make things and do things and increase the economic output of their citizens, generally, on a general basis. It's very sad right now. There's about, I don't know what's going to happen. A lot of people have left. I've actually even spoken to friends who are on the road trying to get out of Ukraine right now. There's a lot of traffic jams, backed up, roads are backed up. On all the highways, people are literally at a standstill, but they hear bombs going off, they hear guns going off.
Scary as heck.
Which must be very scary, because you just had to pack what you can get in your car and go. And then, but you don't see what's going on. You don't know where these bombs are coming from, or
where they're going.
And you don't know what's going to happen when you get to the border.
Yeah.
Is Poland going to let you in? Is Romania going to let you in? Is Slovakia going to let you in? Or are we going to have a situation where there's armed guards keeping Ukrainians in a war zone, not allowing them to cross the border, and starting a humanitarian crisis. Keeping people in a war zone and not allowing them to cross. I don't know what's going to happen. This is all brand new.
Yeah. I read a lot about it as well, because, you know, a lot of the different media outlets, especially catered to, you know, hip hop or entertainment, a lot of the comments were like, well, why are we stepping in? This has nothing to do with us. And like you said, you know, it has a lot to do with us. And when I was reading back, you know, I learned more about the history and how we were talking about before the show started, during Clinton administration, when they made a deal with Ukraine, and they took away, they said, like, if you know, get rid of your nuclear weapons, then we'll always have your back, you know, when something like this happens.
Well,
and
that's what happened. What happened was at the fall of the Soviet Union, there were nuclear weapons in Ukraine. Mm-hmm. And it was a free-for-all. If people remember back in 93, 94, it was a free-for-all. And nobody knew where these nuclear weapons would end up. Maybe in a bad person's, maybe in a bad person's hands, maybe in a terrorist's hands. So Bill Clinton at the time negotiated with the Ukraine and said, if you give up your nuclear weapons and allow and ship them back to Russia, and at the time, the Russian President Boris Yeltsin was working with the United States. Russia was turning to a democratic country, and said, we will take back the nuclear weapons and store them and make sure they're safe. And Ukraine signed an agreement with both Russia and the United States that if they gave up their nuclear weapons and gave them back to Russia, that the United States would protect Ukraine, and Russia promised never to invade.
So that's my thing. So they're breaking...
Contracts, like in life, are to be broken.
What?
Yes, contract. It's just a contract, and we break it now. And but what it really teaches the world, if I'm a leader of a country that has nuclear weapons, if I'm North Korea, if I'm Iran, Pakistan, I would never give up my nuclear weapons.
Right.
So because having a nuclear weapon protects you from invasion. And giving them up leaves you vulnerable.
Which we're witnessing right now. Which is
what we're witnessing right now.
Oh, man.
To make matters worse, Russian forces have seized control of the Chernobyl power plant. That is if you remember, that is the site of the biggest nuclear disaster ever.
Yeah.
Spokeswoman for the state agency of Ukraine on the exclusion zone management. There's a ring around Chernobyl of certain miles of land. I don't know how big the ring is, where it's a no-go. You can't go there. Because of the nuclear radioactivity.
Wow.
Russia has seized all of that no-go land. It's the exclusion zone. Yevgenia Kuznetsova said, when I came to the office today in the morning, it turned out that the nuclear power plant management had left. They all ran. So there was no one to give instructions or to defend. Biden is giving sanctions against Russia. He didn't go all out on sanctions. Europe didn't go out all on sanctions either. He put sanctions on banks, on oligarchs. But you know who he didn't put sanctions on? Putin. Putin's got hundreds of millions of dollars all over the world. How come they didn't do that?
So I know he was saying that all Russian assets in America were to be frozen. So when he said that didn't count Putin as well as an individual?
Apparently not. He is blocking banks. He is blocking certain oligarchs, but he didn't block Putin from making financial transactions, which is very odd. Do you think
that's a way of like kind of not like saying like, hey,
I don't know the answer. I don't know enough.
Kind of be cool.
If I was the president, I would have been tougher. I think appeasement and trying to negotiate with this man is never going to happen. I'm a big proponent of history repeating itself. I believe that history always repeats itself, and people are who they are. So Putin has shown who he is.
Right.
He doesn't care to negotiate.
Yeah.
He says one thing and does something else. And he has a vision. And his vision is that when the Soviet Union broke up, it was the worst day in Russian history. And his vision is that Russia is a great power. And a great power should be controlling many, not only their country, but controlling everybody around them.
Right.
And what he is trying to do right now is build back the Soviet Union. Put puppet governments in that are beholden to Russia. And he's starting with the Ukraine. Problem is that the United States, for Putin at least, the United States has allowed many of the old Soviet countries, Slovakia, Romania, Poland, the Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, to join NATO. So if Putin wants those countries to have puppet governments, there's going to be a war with the United States. Putin says that Ukraine's a puppet government of the US, which it isn't. But that's, Putin has a vision of bringing back Russia as a great power. And in this age, in the year 2022, for people to say you're a great power because you can invade a smaller country and take it over because that's what you feel like doing, that's not a great power.
Right.
A great power is somebody who makes something. You compete economically. All right? You make a better phone. You make a better car. You make a better app. A better Facebook. A better Google. You compete. You become our competitor economically. That's how you become a superpower. Not from invading a smaller country.
Right.
And I think what's going to happen, I don't know for sure. I hope it's not World War III.
Hope not either.
All right. But I think what's going to happen is Putin is really fighting the United States. This is what people don't understand. And if you say, allow Putin to take Ukraine, that's appeasement. You allow him to do something that you know is not right. Yeah, go do it. We don't care. You appease him. You know who also got appeasement? Adolf Hitler. In 1938. Yeah, go take Austria. It's okay. Go take Poland. It's fine. United States stayed out of it.
Right.
United States stayed out of World War II. Hitler took Poland. They didn't get involved. United States, they started bombing UK. They didn't get involved. It's got worse and worse and worse. So when you try to appease and make deals with somebody like this, it doesn't work that way because they're never going to abide by anything you agreed to. So I think Biden's got to get tougher.
Yeah, because right now I feel like he's got like a toe in and then he takes it out. He's just kind of like
I think Europe's got to get tougher. They got to take Russia out of the financial system. You know, you ever wire money to a European bank, it has to go through a SWIFT code. Take them out of the SWIFT code. Put sanctions on Putin.
So you think other countries are going to come together and start?
I hope. I hope. But in other words, anybody who says let them do what they want, it has nothing to do with us, that's appeasement. And appeasement, you end up in a worse position in the future because people say, I can do that, then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this. And then all of a sudden, it's a snowball rolling down the hill you can't control anymore.
Right.
You got to stop it right at the beginning, especially when an authoritarian government, a dictatorship, invades a democratically elected government in a country that did nothing to them.
Absolutely nothing.
Other than had the unfortunate geography of being their neighbor.
Yeah. Man.
And by the way, I was talking about this with Jilly. She's, we're having the conversation. At what point do we as Americans and people around the world start taking money out of banks and leaving cash in their mattresses? Not because we think there's going to be a nuclear war. But I will tell you that Russia, the way this World War III is going to play out, in my opinion, is that instead of fighting each other with bullets, it's going to be cyber fighting. You know, computer hacking.
Right.
You know, closing down banks, screwing up people's accounts.
Jeez.
All sorts of very bad, nefarious computer hacking, cyber warfare type of thing.
Right.
That's where the war is going to go. Now, will it ultimately escalate to bullets between the U.S. and Russia? I don't know. But that's the next stage in the war after Russia takes over Ukraine, which is only a matter of weeks.
Right.
And then what about these poor hundreds of thousands of people on the border? Poland, Romania, Slovakia, willing to let them in? Or are they going to let them be in the killing fields in Ukraine? Meanwhile, stocks tumbled worldwide today after Russia's attack. On Wall Street, the S&P fell 1.1%. The German stock market fell 4%. Oil has jumped over $100 per barrel. Why? Because the world is going to stop buying oil from Russia, or will shortly be doing that. Russia is the #2 producer of oil. They're just one big gas station. Wholesale prices are shot up. So there's going to be pain on the U.S. economy.
Right.
I'd rather take the pain now than the pain later. But people are so short-sighted. They don't want to pay more at the pump, and they don't want to get involved.
Right.
But too bad, you're already involved, whether you like it or not. Because Russia's not fighting Ukraine, they're fighting the United States, they're fighting the entire Western world. And in coronavirus news, Yo-Yo. In coronavirus news, the CDC is expected to make an announcement as early as tomorrow about new metrics that are going to guide COVID restrictions. I had a meme I put up on my Instagram, and then everybody made me put it down. I got like 4 messages from people said, "Brad, take that down. You're going to jinx us." It said, good news, the CDC had us now finally made guidance for us to remove our masks from our face just for us to witness World War III.
Oh. Sheesh.
And everybody got so mad at me for that.
Really?
Yeah. I got a lot of flack on that one. So I took it down.
Well, it wasn't a fan favorite.
It was not a fan favorite, but I took it down. But it's quite frankly, we just go from one,
we're not even done with it.
Not even a week.
We're still not done with it, honestly.
Not even a week. We said, oh, mask mandates are going. Well, maybe we'll get back. Not even a week, and we got this.
Man.
And there's a new variant coming out. It's called the BA2.
Oh, gosh.
And it's apparently capable of causing serious illness and is able to spread faster than Omicron.
What?
It's 30% more contagious than Omicron. It's been detected in 74 countries, 47 states. So if you believe the research coming out from many scientists, we're going to have another variant, coming up on our population very soon.
Right.
Unless you believe that we've reached herd immunity and we will be protected between people who have gotten the prior variants as well as the people who have been vaccinated. We will see. We will see. We had some wacky news, but I have to be honest with you, Yo-Yo.
Not feeling too wacky.
I'm not feeling wacky today.
I think it's understandable.
Yeah, it's one of those days where you're like, in 2022, how could this possibly be happening? Where a country just decides we want to be an imperialist country. This is not 200 years ago or
Right,
500
and that's
years
what
ago.
it seems like. It's like,
Okay.
this is stuff that I learned in my history
the
books.
world order for 80 years. And by the way, you know when he did it? Right when the United Nations was debating whether the sanctions or some statement against Russia, they're having a debate about Russia and Ukraine in the United Nations, and Russia says, screw you, United Nations. The world has to get together. The world can't buy anything from Russia. Can't do business with Russia. Has to sanction everybody in Russia. And by the way, I've spoken to people in Russia. The poor people in Russia, they don't want this either.
Well, usually, like we said before, it's not usually the people that
in
are...
Russia don't want this.
Right, the people in Ukraine definitely don't want it.
It's just it's old
so
man Putin.
That's all it is.
It's old man Putin who's
deep.
trying...
That's just one person.
One person. But Adolf Hitler was just one person too.
Yep, and you see what he did and what
And then everybody else said we were just following directions. There was a protest today in Moscow, which we're showing right now. Russian government said if you don't disperse from your protest, you will all be arrested.
You're going to do that to your own people.
Yes. So they started arresting the protesters.
Wow.
Now, Russian television is not showing Russian aggression.
Of course.
So unless... Now, that doesn't mean you can't in Russia see Western news, but you got to really look for it.
Yeah.
So, but Russian general television is showing that Russia's going in as a peace force, peacekeepers.
Well, at least it's good to know that the citizens of Russia,
they don't want it.
They don't want it either. It kind of reminds me of us in immigration during the Trump era, where we would have so many protests saying, "Look, we love you guys. We're not, we're not these evil people that you see from the leaders." So all we can do is pray at this point, man. I don't know. I don't know what.
Yeah, well, a lot's going to happen till we get back on the air next week.
Yeah.
And of course, we'll be talking about it more. Thanks for watching. For more Brad Show Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.